Hey guys, Tripless here. I wanted to make a video for this update to Sorcerer, both to talk about what's new with it and just to kind of make a centralized place where I can talk about how I got to this point and why it's highly likely that if I continue to do modding for this game, it's going to be very sporadic and unreliable, and I'm probably not going to be doing big projects like the Sorcerer mod again. A brief little history: I got started modding for The Sims 4 in about the beginning of February of this year. I worked obsessively for about a month with Zerbu's mod constructor tool, and I released the Teen Traits pack. At that point, I was thinking really hard about my future and career, and I'd seen how a couple modders were managing to make some income from donations. I thought, snowball's chance in hell, but maybe I can work towards something like that. As it happened, I might be good at modding, but I'm a terrible publicist, which is not really news to me. And my attempts at building a donation type of thing pretty much went nowhere. Part of the reason being that I just didn't have the time to put energy into it, along with the amount of hours I was putting into my mod projects. So if I focused on the one, it'd detract from the quality and the timeliness of the other. I have a kind of ADD, and I don't mean that I'm hyper and run around. It's actually more like I have trouble getting engaged with something if it isn't super stimulating. Modding does stimulate my brain to a point. In fact, I tend to get a feature working and then go in game to see it working or work out bugs. The eventual satisfaction of seeing it working helps motivate me to work on the next part. The good news is it's been a hell of a ride over 6 months now, and though I had some really low points where I'd burned myself out to an extreme degree, it's been pretty amazing being able to put the time I did into this and make stuff that so many people enjoy. The bad news is volunteer work isn't financial security that I can store away for my future. It'll hopefully make a difference on a resume, a game design one at least, but on its own, it's not even employment experience, and due to how my strange brain works, it's not as simple as me just having a career and modding on the side, especially if I do game design work paid, because then it would be paid game design work and unpaid game design work and would just be overwhelming. I've reached a point where I increasingly have to focus on something in my life that will give me a secure present and future, and though modding might be fun along with being a lot of work, it hasn't been security. This isn't an explanation where I turn to you guys and say, give me money please. I think I'm past the point where that's a realistic option. I can't wait around to build something gradually over time, and as my own behavior has taught me, I'm not very good at building or maintaining that kind of thing anyway. I still intend to keep an eye out for patches and try to keep my existing mods up to date, but that's the best I can feel comfortable saying that I'm aiming for. This isn't really the note I wanted to play out on, or rather drift off on. I don't intend to disappear, just scale back a lot, but it is what it is. Thank you to those who have supported what I do or contributed to it or just been kind people in general. Without your kindness and interest in my little projects, I'd never have made it this far. Now on to the last hurrah of the Sorcerer mod for the foreseeable future. The first and probably most important change to me was changing the bonded interactions so that they're less buggy. They were embarrassingly messy and bug-prone, and should work a lot more smoothly now. Probably the worst that'll happen now is the target will cancel out of it because they're trying to leave the lot, and you'll automatically get canceled out of it too. So use it on targets who aren't trying to leave the lot for the best results. But even if you don't, it shouldn't get your Sims stuck in the interaction anymore. Next, I felt that alignment was somewhat neglected in importance after I changed the unlocking of spells into being through skills rather than alignment. So alignment now affects skill gain for black and white arts, as well as affecting how easily you make enemies, with dark alignment, and how easily you make friends dependent on your light alignment. You'll also notice that when you've completed one of the top tier rituals and you've got Reaper's Aura active or Purity's Aura active, there will be some special behavior from nearby Sims. For Purity's Aura, nearby Sims will flock to you and cheer for you like a famous person being mobbed. With Reaper's Aura, nearby Sims will panic and you'll lose some relationship with them periodically. Note that, as before, you can disable these auras, so if you want to, you can turn the effect on and off totally at your own choice. Dark and Light also each get a special introduction. It's basically friendly and rude, but stronger by default. Plus, if you take into account the multipliers from high alignment, you can make friends or enemies really fast, depending on which alignment you're focused on. Sorcerers, teen or older ones, that is, just to be clear on that point, it can now do a run as fast as the vampire super speed. You toggle it on or off by clicking Run under the Spells menu. If you find the naming weird, the reason is I wanted really badly to avoid adding new strings with this update so that I wouldn't have to be dealing with adding a bunch of changed translations, and the people who do translations wouldn't have to do a bunch of additions and changes, so I kind of scrounged around to find what would make sense for the naming of things. Some of it's maybe a little bit weird. If you're confused, just go and read the documentation and the mod's description and it'll explain how stuff works. For example, at Light Skill 1, there's a new ability when targeting other Sims called Workout. But it doesn't just tell them to do a workout if they have something to do it on nearby. It also cures any fatigue they have, so if you want a Sim to go crazy working out, have a handy-dandy light sorcerer ready to heal their fatigue for them. You can now change the outfit of any Sim you target. This ability is devoid of alignment restrictions or spell cost. It's basically an outfit picker like it is when you pick your Sim's own outfit. Dark Sorcerers get a new ability on the piano. If piano skill is at level 10 and dark skill is high enough to have Induced Panic unlocked, it's also called Induced Panic. It'll play a funky avant-garde song on the piano, and nearby Sims will panic, running around and then eventually passing out exhausted. A lot of animations have been changed or tweaked in some little way, special thanks to Simone Caprolini for the animations used in the modified Drain and Sacrifice and Need interactions. I apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name. Practice abilities are now available for both light and dark, so if you want to manage your magical connection without use of the need, sacrifice, drain stuff, you can just use practice. Also relating to magical connection, if you have cheats enabled, you can shift click and choose magical connection under spells to lock or unlock magical connection at full in case you don't want to deal with it being an actual need to manage. You just want it to be at full all the time. And finally, the part that I'm most proud of is something that may be buggy in practice sometimes a little bit, but that's just because I was kind of pushing the boundaries of how the code can function for this particular thing with the way it's written. Expect a little bugginess, but overall it pretty much works as intended in my testing. And that feature is the minion system. You can target NPCs who are teen or older and give them a special role. For example, you could choose Maid. The NPC will now be a devoted maid hanging out on the lot whose sole purpose in life is to clean up messes on that lot. I considered making these roles a dark ability originally, but since I didn't have anything major for light to counterbalance it, I decided to just make it something you get access to as soon as you've completed one of the initial rituals for both light and dark. And it doesn't impact alignment, it's just kind of a nice utility to have. Couple things to keep in mind about how these roles work. Sims in these roles should stay on the lot indefinitely unless you use the dismiss command, in which case they'll leave. If you travel, they might be there when you get back, they might not. I'm not sure how reliable that aspect of it is. Note that if a sim is already trying to leave your lot, attempting to apply a role to them probably won't work. You'll have to let them leave, invite them back on the lot somehow, and try again to apply the role. I really badly wanted to get rid of this quirk, but I couldn't figure out a way around it with how leaving works. Apart from being able to dismiss sims in the special role, you can also use sleep on them, which will put them to sleep and allow you to go into the fastest game speed if all your other sims on the lot are also asleep. Sims in these special roles will have their needs locked at the maximum value, so you don't have to worry about managing their needs. They are your minions, ready to do your bidding. Well, your bidding with a limited number of commands and role types. More details on the special roles are in the mod's description, so please read that if you're confused. If it covers every aspect of the minion system, just go over to Mod the Sims. The link is in the description of this video. If you found this video on its own without going through Mod the Sims, just go over there. Has all the details. I hope you enjoy this update, and here's hoping the pets patch doesn't break everything. Thanks for tuning in, and may the toddler be with you always.